Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Keith Kuntz. We're breaking away from our regular programming to take you in a moment to a live news conference from Governor Dannel Malloy. Sources telling our Mark Davis that Malloy will announce he will not run for a third term. Chief political correspondent Mark Davis standing by live in Hartford, where the governor about to speak. And Mark, the governor's low poll number is likely a big factor in this move, right?
No doubt. Good afternoon, Keith. Good afternoon, everyone from the old appropriations room at the State Capitol Complex in the State Capitol building in Hartford. The governor and Mrs. Malloy are making their way up the stairs here along with the lieutenant governor to address you, and our sources confirm that he will not seek a third term. Now, the most recent polling did show him up a little bit, but he's still below 30%, and there's been wild speculation here at the Capitol for quite some time that he probably would not run for a third term. A source close to him told me a month ago that we should expect it in the spring and sooner than you think. And this is actually a little sooner than the governors normally would. Normally they would wait until after the election. And is about to address us. You see Mrs. Malloy with him and Lieutenant Governor Nancy Wyman.
Thank you.
And I believe that's one of his sons next to Mrs. Malloy.
Thank you. Well, there'll be 20 more months to do that, so we don't have to do it all at once. I began my first run for, best Lieutenant Governor in the United States, Nancy Wyman. And absolutely the best wife I've ever had. And my best oldest son. Hey, listen, I began my first run for governor officially on February 3rd, 2004, more than 13 years ago. Amazing. And now, a little past the midway point of my second term, I've obviously had to consider what the future might look like for myself and my family, for the Democratic Party, and for the great state of Connecticut. I've thought a great deal about the areas that my administration has tried to prioritize these past 6 years. Throughout our work, we've tried to play the long game for Connecticut. Not doing what is politically expedient, but rather what we believe in is best for, in the best interest of the state that we all love and the people of Connecticut who I serve. I also emphasize the future generations of Connecticut citizens as well. I've thought about how our state has added more than 74,000 private sector jobs since 2010, and unemployment is at 4.7%, its lowest level since 2007. I've thought about how we have worked across how we did work across party lines in 2012 to pass comprehensive educational reform. And today, our students are some of the best readers in the country, and our graduation rates are now at the highest point in Connecticut's history. I've thought about the common sense and compassionate changes we've made to our criminal justice system, changes that are helping us experience our lowest crime rates in generations. And I've thought about similar progress in so many other areas: energy, affordable housing, transportation, and much more. In all of these areas, I am tremendously proud of the undeniable progress that we have made, but I also know how much is still yet to be done. I know that Connecticut must continue to change and grow and strive for a more perfect tomorrow, that we must continue to focus on the long game. I know that until anyone who wants a job has one, until every person in our criminal justice system is treated fairly and equally, until every student has access to quality education, that we have never done enough if those conditions continue to exist. And we should all acknowledge, and I know everyone on my team does, that we have more work to do. Inherent in the nature of our democracy is that no governor, no mayor, no president, for that matter, ever sees their vision fully realized. America, each of its states, and each of its amazing cities and towns are forever works in progress. Elected leaders at every level are stewards. We are stewards, and we are entrusted to use the time that we have to improve the lives of our constituents as best we can. That's what I've tried to do every day that I have held office, including this very day. In fact, it's been said by some that if I were interested in a third term, I might have put forward a different-looking budget. I'm not sure I agree with that, but I take it as a compliment. My proposed budget was built with Connecticut's best interest in mind, regardless of political consequences, for me or for anyone else. And I intend to make the core principles of that budget a reality in the coming months. For that reason, today I announce that I will not seek a third term as governor. Instead, I will focus all of my attention and energy. I will use all of my political capital now through the end of 2018 to continue implementing my administration's vision for a more sustainable and more vibrant Connecticut economy. Here is what that means. It means creating a fairer and more equitable system for town aid, a system that includes a more sensible and equitable ECS formula, and a system that responsibly shares the obligations of teachers' retirement just as every other state does. It also means maintaining our commitment to better and more sustainable budget practices. We will not rely on gimmicks or one-time fixes. We will not push off debts that should be responsibly paid now. And we will not borrow to save ourselves from difficult but necessary reductions in spending. And it also means continuing to make our criminal justice system work better for everyone, regardless of where they live, the color of their skin, or how much money is or is not in their bank. No one should sit in a jail simply because they are poor, while others walk free. And if a young person pays the consequences for a mistake that they have made when they are young, those consequences should not prevent them from eventually taking part in our society, in our economy. The decision I have announced today will allow me to focus on these areas fully, not just for the remainder of this session, but for the next 20 months in total. In the remainder of my term, my team and I will continue to play the long game. We will keep fighting for what we believe is in the best interest of Connecticut residents now and in the future. In closing, I want to recognize Kathy, who I've already recognized today. She is my partner. She is my best friend. And it's only through her love and support, and Dannel too, and my other two sons, that all of this has been possible. Again, I want to recognize Nancy Wyman. I've said it today. I've said it before. She is the best lieutenant governor in the United States, and I've meant that every time I've said it. And finally, I want to thank my staff, who I also got teary-eyed a little while ago when I told them. Not because I'm unhappy, because I'm so blessed to have them. Working with you, again, has been a great joy. So serving as Connecticut's 88th governor is the honor of a lifetime, second only to being a father and a husband. And it will continue to be an honor to work as hard as I can. I will give you one guarantee: no governor is ever going to outwork me. And I will do that for the remainder of this term. And I will be the friends of all of my friends in this room for the remainder of my life. Thank you. Yeah, we can smile now. Thank you. Thank you. Good job, Dannel. Thank you. Good speech. I've got something in my throat.
Governor, there have been, many of us have noticed in recent weeks that you have seemed to be quite happy. When did you make this decision?
I made it in stages. I think the first time I made it was last August, and made it again in September. Made it again a couple of times over the last few weeks, basically I decided the other day that that what Kathy and I had decided collectively was the right thing, and so I picked today as the day to announce it. But we made the decision over a period of time.
Was there any reason beyond why today? Why make the announcement?
So you can wash it all out by Monday and I can get back to work. That's why. Honestly, I figured you could deal with it over Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and I could get back to work, which is my plan.
Does this make it easier for budget negotiations and union negotiations?
Probably makes it harder for others.
Governor, you said 2010 that you didn't create the state problems, you ran as an outsider, you came here to fix them. Do you think that you have fixed the problems that you inherited as a governor?
Not yet.
And when do you expect that will happen?
Well, listen, I don't anticipate dying before we've done more. Listen, I'm going to be governor through till January of 2019, and every single day I expect that myself and my staff will be working very hard to continue the process of refinishing the work, or finishing the work that we began literally on the first day I was sworn in. When I signed a document, we were at the Armory, and we got to my office, and I signed a document saying that we would comply with generally accepted accounting principles. And there was no truer sign that I would remain dedicated as I am to those principles of returning the state to good fiscal health than the first day.
Well, how do you think you have done? You cited 74,000 jobs recovered. That's, the last I checked, it's what, 70, 80, less than 80% of the jobs we lost in the recession, which is we're still trying to recover. So just, we've had budget difficulties, we've had two deficits, or two budgets that are out of balance. Who knows what's going to happen with this one?
Listen, I think you write for pretty good paper regardless of the fact that their number of copies they sell has gone down.
Well, thank you very much.
So listen, we get hired to do a job. I think we've done a damn good job, quite frankly, and I think that's why we were reelected. So yeah, sure. I'm the governor, and I have laid out a very clear vision of what we need to accomplish before this session is over, or before, even after that, we have a budget. So I knew exactly what I was doing when I proposed that budget to further work on the issues that we have to work on. And so I'm willing to work with everyone who... I've been doing that for a long time.
How will you deal with all these other candidates? Obviously, there's a lot of candidates in the race, declared or undeclared. In other words, with you being out of it, do you think that will make it less political or more political? A lot of people will be saying things about you in their races. Will you ignore them, or how will you deal with this?
Well, there's a lot in that question, but the bottom line is there's plenty of time for politics. I've never been shy about my politics. I'm sure I'll continue to play a role in politics in Connecticut for not just the next 20 months, but for years beyond that. I've been in this building all of this year. It's been pretty political already. But the reality is that Kathy and I came to a decision, one that we had been working on for a while. And quite frankly, I've run for governor 3 times. And it's a lot. Yeah. Listen, we're really happy. I want to finish this job, and then I want to figure out what I'm going to do next, and we're really happy.
What's the relationship between your approval rating and this decision?
None. I mean, listen, I got the Democratic nomination in 2006, and the polls at this time in that cycle had my recognition at 6%.
Recognition, but not disapproval.
No, well, listen, you can't love somebody until you come to know them. So I'm not being hard on you. Listen, I can honestly tell you it doesn't enter. I think ultimately Kathy and I want to, and our sons are ready for another stage of our collective lives and our individual lives. And I made it a few times. I gave myself enough time to see if I wanted to change that decision. I don't want to change that decision. I'm very comfortable and happy with the decision I've made. I look forward to the next 20 months, and then I look forward to the next 20 years.
Will you definitely finish out the full term?
Oh, yeah.
Any ideas of what you might want to do after this?
You got an opening? You know, I haven't given it. I haven't given it. I qualified to deliver papers anyway. I really haven't spent time. You know, I just put it in perspective. Since 1995, I have been a chief elected official. I have been in other terms, the president of a large corporation all but 1 year. And I figure, so I figure there'll be other things for me to figure out in the future.
Should we expect to see more on the national stage, working for Democrats across the
More? I know. I've been working. Listen, we had, as Democrats, we probably had the biggest win of any part of the party when we elected a Democrat in North Carolina, and the DGA played a very large role, and so did I. And getting a Democrat reelected in Montana, and getting a Democrat elected in West Virginia, 3 states that we did not carry. Otherwise, I remain committed to that mission.
For you up to do more of that work, should we expect to see you outside the state more often, working on behalf of Democrats?
No, I don't think it will be more, and I don't think it will be less, at least through the end of my term as the chairman of the Democratic Governors Association. Things may change after that, but that wouldn't be until next December. So. I'm sorry. I love Nancy Wyman, and she's got decisions to make, and I'll have to make decisions after she makes her decisions. But I love Nancy Wyman. So.
What were some of the factors you considered as you try to decide whether or not to
I think I kept coming back to this concept that I've run for governor 3 times, and I think that I think people. I just think that that's enough for me personally and for Kathy, that we've put in our time, and I've devoted 6 full years to trying to turn this state around. And I'm not just simply talking in terms of jobs or the 20,000 units of affordable housing that we financed or built, or the fact that prior to Nancy and I coming into office, graduation rates had declined 5 years in a row, only to be followed by increases to the highest level. I mean, there's lots of things. A prison population that's going from over 20,000 to 14,000, a recidivism rate that's dropped, transportation. And, I mean, listen, I understand that no one puts all the pieces together quite the same way that I do when I look at what we've done, but very proud of what we collectively have done.
Was it a matter of money again being exhausting?
I just thought, and it's a fair question. It's a little bit of everything, I think. And I took up skiing this year. That should have been a hint to all of you.
More, right?
I specifically took up skiing this year. Actually, Dannel and I and Chris and Ben and Sam went skiing on December 26th. I hadn't skied in 20 years. And I made the decision to start skiing again, and a lot of people thought I was crazy, because I wanted to spend more time with my sons and have something to do with them. And I'm hopeful that we'll have some grandchildren at some point. And I want to put.
Very soon. Very soon.
No pressure.
So I think it's a continuum of decision making, and I felt it was important. I mean, originally I told you guys I would do this in June, but I came to the point where I no longer changed my mind, which I had done a couple of times, because I'm really very comfortable with who I am and what I've done and what I want to do and who I want to work with. So, very comfortable.
Give us an update on the union negotiations. That's a key part of the budget. We're getting past April.
We'll take a couple offline, not a whole lot. I'll answer that one. We have, listen, I'm hopeful, but, we've been at it unofficially since November, and we don't have an agreement in place, and we're asking a lot. So where we'll end up, I don't know. There is a clock ticking. We have certain legal obligations that we have to honor with respect to notice and those sort of things. We have held off from doing certain things, and we'll hold off a little bit longer in the hopes that we reach those agreements. But in the absence of reaching those agreements, I can assure you, and I think I don't even need to assure you, I will act.
What do you say to the person in the street who doesn't follow what's going on in this building, has given you a disapproval mark, sees that job creation is slow here, doesn't understand that you inherited a $3.5 billion or $6 billion deficit, however you want to word it, and so forth, and says, Malloy, good, he's not running, that's good. What do you say to that person today out there?
Well, I think it's good, too. That's why I'm doing it. What do you want from me? I'm happy. Listen, everyone's entitled to opinion. It's not like I won elections by a lot of votes around here. And it's not like the state had been used to electing Democrats before I became governor, at least in a long time. And we are a very divided state and a very divided country. So what I would, listen, I hope that person someday will recognize what we've actually done. I hope that they'll come to understand that straightening out the state's long-term obligations was worth my sacrificing my personal popularity. That's what I hope they'll come to recognize, because I can assure you that my personal popularity has never driven my decision-making as governor, period. Period.
Governor, now that you do not have to face a motion, do you still pledge not to sign a budget that increases taxes?
Well, first of all, what I said is that I will not sign a budget that is tax-driven. This is not a tax problem. This is a budgetary problem. In my own budget, I raised some taxes and I lowered some taxes, so I certainly didn't make that promise, but I understand the point you're getting at. I think I have permanently removed the idea that I'm going to, although no one should have it after 6 completed years, now into our 7th year, that I was going to do anything for politics. So I got got work to do. I'm prepared to do it. I got one hell of a team. I mean, think about my administration, and a number of my commissioners are here. I have a lot of commissioners who've been here with me from day one. I have a lot of staff people. Brian, my chief of staff, joined my campaign in 2004. Ben Barnes and I have been working since 2002. Ariel came up from Stamford, where she worked in my city government, but her relationship goes back with my family to the 2006 run. I don't change friends too frequently.
Governor, your stances have created fairly political opponents around the country and here in the state. How should they read into this, and what do you say to that, to those who vilify you for your stances and your views?
I have been vilified for standing up for refugees. I've also been recognized for standing up for refugees. I'll take that one. I think I have never failed to call out racial, religious, ethnic discrimination, and I will continue to do that till the day I die. And this is no death. I'm still alive and kicking. So I'll debate anybody who wants to debate me on those and any other subject matter. You know, I don't really care.
Hey, Governor, I've been very active in going out and talking to Connecticut businesses that wants to stay here, but you're trying to.
Okay, you've been watching live. We'll have much more on this breaking news story. Governor Dannel Malloy announcing he will not run for re-election. Our news will continue at 5 o'clock. We will also have updates on WTNH.com and our News 8 app. Again, I'm Keith Kuntz. Now we'll get you back to regular programming here on News 8.